Let me make sure that all this is working before I start. So, I'll answer all your questions one by one, but let me start with telling the topic of today, and it is as far from technology as it can get. It is about the science of success. And as I was discussing with some people outside, it is as controversial as you can get. Is this a science? By the end of the talk, hopefully I'll be able to tell you and prove to you that actually it is science. It requires a lot of effort, but we will see all that. So with that, let's begin. In the next 45 minutes or so, Bunty told me to be thought-provoking. And I told Bunty that Indians they don't need much provoking for thoughts. They are already thought-provoked all the time. The challenge for India is to actually make it action-provoking. People talk a lot, people think a lot, but the problem is we don't act a lot. So my focus, and that is why I changed the topic completely, it's about action, and my hope is that every single person walks out of this room with at least one action to take. If not, I have failed, and I apologize in advance for that. Young people, I see a lot of young people here. I want them to pay attention because this will provide you framework of success. But in this crowd, there are a lot of people who are very successful, much more successful than I am. I don't want to insult you. I ask for your forgiveness. But this framework will provide you a way to mentor your next generation, children, nephews, nieces. Because trust me, they need your wisdom. They may not know that, but I am telling you that they need your wisdom. And I'll provide you a framework through which you can actually do the transfer of that knowledge and the wisdom that you have. So with that, let's jump in and start with some funny side of success. Behind every successful man, there is a surprised woman. Do women agree with that? But I'll tell you that there's even more important is the next comment. That is what was said by Marianne Pearson, but what I said is this. Behind every successful woman, there is even more surprised men. Some comments about success that truly inspire me. The only place where you find success before work is in dictionary. And I'm making this comment intentionally for the young people. What I like in today's young generation is they don't know any boundaries. They haven't seen the challenges their parents and grandparents faced. So they don't know the word no. They don't know the meaning of word impossible. But what surprises me is that what they don't understand is how much hard work is required to achieve what they want to achieve. I message to the young generation that hard work is critical. Another way put by Benjamin Franklin is you will find the key to success under your alarm clock. I have had fortunate experience of working with some of the best people in the world. I was telling that I'm lucky to have worked with David Packard, Bill Hewlett, Steve Jobs, Michael Dell, and now with John Chambers. And I have got to know them. I have also worked with many, many, many successful people around the world, and I can tell you that there's one thing that is common. They all work very, very hard. So for the next generation, please understand this. Hard work is the key. And then comes this interesting comment from no other than Mark Twain that let us be thankful for fools, but for them, rest of us could not succeed. And actually, that is a very loaded comment. Most people do not know how to succeed. And because of them, the people who know how to succeed will actually succeed. And I'm going to show you the way. So let's jump. First, I want you to be very engaged. Bunty wanted me to make sure that I engage you. So my first question to you is, how many of you consider yourself successful? Please raise your hand. Drop your hierarchy, drop how old or young you are. Just tell me how many of you think you consider yourself successful. Please raise your hand. See, there's probably about 10, now 15%, and some people are saying, okay, 10, 15% of think. How many of you think you can do better than what you are doing today? Right? Almost all, 100%. Now let me ask you a loaded question. Even with the 10% or 15% people who raised hands, how many of you are successful and happy? Now only 3, 4 hands. What's happening here? What's happening here? And this is no different. So people who didn't raise hands because they thought, should I raise, should I not? Is it a trick question? It is not a trick question. You have wonderful company, because I am going to quote you 2 studies. One study which interviewed 700 people of high achievement. These were government leaders, CEOs, scientists, athletes, entertainers who have won awards in all walks of life. They were asked the same question that I asked you, and their answer will surprise you. They said, many people set goals and go on to achieve them, only to find they are mysteriously disappointed, empty, and unhappy at the end. So you have lots of company. In another study, they looked at Fortune 500 CEO companies, the top 500 companies in United States. They talked to the CEOs of those companies and said, are you successful? These are the people we dream of. Here is their answer. They missed the mark. They said, many of them said that we don't consider ourselves as successful. Many of them had messed life, relationships, health, so many other things that they really, at the end of it, they didn't consider themselves successful. And what they realized at that time was that success means leading a life of personal fulfillment, not so much about money, fame, and power. For most of these people, it was too late. And as I keep repeating to people who talk to me, life has no rewind button. There's nothing you can do once the time has passed. So let's see what we can do. Now, what can we learn from successful companies? Can that be applicable to us? Let's find out. In a book, Built to Last, Jim Collins collected 9 pair of companies in United States, 18 companies, put in 2 boxes, and he studied that over 50-year period. 50 years earlier, these 2 companies were very similar. But over the next 50 years, one set of companies succeeded amazingly and others did not. And he tried to look into it and said, what was the reason for one set of companies who looked same 50 years back to succeed so much and not the otherwise? And the companies that he studied, there's 9 pair of companies, but for example, Boeing and McDonnell Douglas, IBM and Burroughs, Ford and GM, GE Westinghouse. At 50 years back, they were exactly at the same level. You would not know actually which one of them will succeed and so on. But one set actually became very, very successful and other became moderate success. What happened here and how much successful? Let's look at that. You will not be able to read, but I can tell you what it is showing. What it is showing is, if you had invested $1 in 1926 in this general market, if you just put it in the S&P 500 or the general market, it would become $415 in 1990. The second bucket of companies, it would become $955. But if you put in the first bucket of companies, it became $6,356. 10 times more successful than the other peers. So now the question is, what did they do differently? What did they do which made them so much successful compared to others? And here is what they found. They said, And there's some myths. And the first myth is successful companies exist first and foremost to maximize profits. That is not true. What they found is successful companies pursue a cluster of objectives, which making money is only one. They have other objectives as well, not just making money. They are equally guided by their core values and sense of purpose besides making money. Of course they want to make money, but that is not the only driver that took them there. Yet, paradoxically, they make more money and profit than the profit-driven companies, purely profit-driven companies. Learning one which is very relevant to us. I'll come back to that. Let's see what we can learn from them. Other things they learned. The myth is that it takes a great idea to start a company. The answer is actually no, not necessarily. There are some companies that are started with a very good idea and they pursued that, but there are actually many companies that had no idea when they began what business they are going to go after. That applies to individuals as well. And the examples are Intel did not know, 5 people left Fairchild. They just said that let's build a company. They did not have any idea of what they are going to do, except that they wanted to work in semiconductors. Similarly, Hewlett and Packard from Stanford wanted to start a company. They did not know exactly what they will do, and so on. So it is not necessary to know precisely what you want. That applies to us as individuals as well. For many successful people, it is not important to know right from your childhood exactly what you want. And everything is applicable to people here. Successful companies are primarily focused on beating the competition. Not true. The successful companies were focused on beating themselves. Again, it applies to us, and I'll come back to that. And the last one is they were all driven by big goals. Whether it is Boeing, which wanted to do jets for commercial aircraft, or GE, or Ford democratized the automotives, all of that was part of it. So they all had big goals. Here is the key. What they found is that the purpose-driven companies work inside out. Why, how, what? Why do they exist? How they want to get to what, which is their destination. Purpose-driven companies think inside out. Let me give you examples so that it becomes clear to you. If you take Apple, the most valuable technology company today, you see that Apple believes. Why do they exist? They believe in creating wow products and delighting customers. That's why they exist. How do they act? By unsurpassed creativity and thinking different. And what they have achieved, it's very clear. You love their products and they are the most valuable technology company in the world. Inside out, they know the outcome, but they are not driven by outside in. That is the hallmark of the very, very successful companies. Apply it to Cisco. Cisco says, why do they exist is because Cisco believes in changing the way we work, live, play, and learn. How? We want to focus on innovation and customers. And what have we achieved? In many, many segments, we are number one in the world. So, successful companies are purpose-driven and they are driven from inside out. Interestingly, it applies to us exactly that way. So, now let's move to personal success, which is what I want to address you all and see how this applies to personal success. So, have a purpose. Companies that had purpose, broad purpose, succeeded beyond imagination. Some people also who had purpose, purpose-driven people, succeeded beyond imagination and so have a purpose. Like Gandhiji said, the world steps aside to the person who knows where he or she is going. The problem is the world is full of people who don't know where they are going. So having purpose is key. Success should not be determined by how we are doing compared to others. That is very important for us to understand. Compete with yourself, just like we saw the successful companies competed with themselves. And define what is meaningful success to you. You are the only one who can define what success means to you, and the word meaningful here is very, very important for you to understand. So, if we go by that and the purpose has to be broader, success might look like this. You have many, many, many dimensions to success. It could be material success, it could be professional success, it could be success in relationships, you want to earn respect, spiritual success, physical success, giving back, recognition, on and on and on. These are few elements of that. We must be clear what we want. Now, the second question I get right away when I show this is that, does this mean I need to focus on all of these all the time? The answer is here. You don't have to make career in everything that is meaningful to you. But you need to find a place for everything that is meaningful to you. That is the balance you need. You don't worry about the equal time. Spending the right amount of time and focus on your priorities, not the equal amount of time. By having these priorities, we are not saying that you spend equal time on that, but you need to spend some time on it if it is important to you. You decide, nobody else can decide that. So let's take it to the next level, and I have a question for you. If I ask you this question, what do you care about most? What is the answer? And I'm going to start with you. What do you care about most? Just give me a simple answer. Relationships. Sir. Relationships. Bunty. Family. Relationships. And in relationships, what relationship specifically? Sir. Family. Family. Anything specific? Mr. Reiki. Family. Everyone. Anybody else? In relationship, is there any specific relationship you care about most? With the spouse. Your spouse must be around. Tell me, children, Samir? Myself, relationship with yourself? Meher? Kids? So, without taking too much time, because we do have limited time, you have company. Because, you remember this? Rick Elias had a front row seat in flight 1549. The plane that crash landed in Hudson River in New York in January 2009. And he describes the incident as follows. There was a big sound on the engine of the plane. The plane turned around, trying to come back to the airport, and slowly there was no sound on engine, and plane started lining up to Hudson River. The only announcement from the pilot was, brace for high impact. There was complete silence in the plane. Plane started coming closer and closer to water. And the picture that they had in mind is the moment it hits water, it will blow up in pieces, and this is the end of it. Complete silence everywhere. 14, 13, 12, 11. And in his TED talk, which you should listen, what he says is the following. Rick said, my only message to you is to ask yourself, are you being the best parent you can be? That is the only thing that mattered to him at that time. And now he is transformed. So many of you who said that children, actually that is the only thing he said. Yes, of course, the spouse and many other relationships are important, but it was actually the children that he thought at that time. The good thing is they all survived, as you know, and it's a success, very, very happy story. But so the bottom line is that is the most important. So if you do have multidimensional goals, let's look at that. Shouldn't children be on top? Children and your relationship be on top? If the answer is yes, what is your focus on those? They are on the top, but they actually at the bottom in terms of your focus. We'll come back to that. But bottom line here is you should have a balanced focus, and you only decide, frankly. I am not suggesting that this is the success balance for you. You can say that, look, I don't care about it, I just want professional success. If that is your choice, go after it. But make sure you know that people who have gone through that path, the 500 CEOs of 500 S&P 500 companies in the end regretted that that was not what they wanted in the end. Life has no rewind button, but you can learn from people who have treaded that path before. That's the only thing you can do. And I'm not here to tell you, decide your success parameter how, but this is what we have learned. So for children, the only comment I'll have, and I'll move on from that. Many people talk to me about this, and my only comment is, be what you want your children to be. We want good outcome from the children, but we are not willing to do what it takes for you to raise proper children or children properly. So be what you want your children to be. That doesn't mean your children will be what you want them to be, but that's a start. And today I find that most people do not do that. They are leading a life that they don't want their children to lead. The result will not be what you would like. Understand what you need to do to earn respect from your children. Love you obviously have. Ask yourself, ask your children if you are bold enough, what do you respect me for? And if they are struggling to answer that question, put your meter of success and say, where are you in this time, in this sort of game? Let's move on, because this is a topic in itself and large enough for us to discuss some other time. So one, we have a purpose. Second, we need to have a goal, and goal should be dependent on whatever you decide. What is your materialistic goal? What is your relationship goal, etc., etc. People with goals end up working, people without goals end up working for people who have goals. Have goals. And what studies after studies have shown that have written goals, because 80% higher probability is there for you to achieve the goal if you have written it very, very clearly. At Yale University, there was a research done in which these people came and went to an MBA class. And they asked the people just like this, how many of you have written goals? Only 4 or 5 people raised hands. Fast forward 30 years. 30 years down the road, they went and traced the same people again. And they found that those 4 people or 5 people who had raised hands, their net worth was bigger than rest of the class. Same intelligence, same class, same educational qualification. What happened when they wrote the goal? They got the focus. Any road is good enough if you don't know where you are going. The problem is, do you know where you are going? So writing and having a very, very clear goal. Again, if you are mentoring someone, again, there are very successful people here in the crowd. I do not want to preach them. But when they mentor their nephew, niece, or their driver's son or daughter, please understand that this is what has worked for many people before. Be passionate. Any successful person will tell you that passion is the key. You need to be very passionate about your goal. And passion literally means you are willing to do whatever it takes to achieve that goal. But there is actually science of passion. You have heard that word many times. Let me share what is behind this word passion. A human brain, a very, very small percentage of human brain is actually utilized. Do you know what percentage of brain a common person uses? Any idea? 30%, 5 I hear, 2 I hear, 8% I hear. Let me tell you, Einstein used 4% of his brain. If he became Einstein in using 4% of his brain to figure out what we do, right? But there is sort of trick here. A large part of human brain, without going into the science of it, is actually not logical. It works on emotions. A small part of the brain works on logic. We use logical brain all the time because that's what we have been taught. Large part of the brain works on emotion. There is no logical message you can send to the large part of your brain to get it going. It's like a supercomputer sitting, waiting for a response, but it doesn't like logical response. You can send it a response, but that response has to be an emotion, and that emotion is passion. Passionate people know how to charge their huge, humongous part of brain. And then it starts. And when it starts, amazing things happen. And that is what we call, in every religion of the world, there is a name for it. We call it Aham Brahmasmi. You have become one with the universe now. And your whole universe is actually starting to support you in what you want to achieve. You will see amazing things happen. And I have a proof why I can tell you that logical part of brain cannot control your bigger part of the brain once it starts working. Honestly tell me, how many of you have cried in a movie? Not because movie is bad, but actually because you got involved in a movie. Raise hands, honestly. Right? 100% of you have cried in the movie. What is happening here? Logically, you know the movie is going to end in 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Why are you crying? Because the large part of your emotional brain has started working, and your logical part cannot actually control that anymore. So somehow the key on successful people is they have been able to, through passion, they have been able to charge the other side of the brain. And then things start, and the whole universe starts supporting you for that. And you wanted to meet, let's say, Mr. Murthy. You are dying for a meeting with Mr. Murthy. Suddenly, he comes and sits next to you in the plane. It's not an accident. The universe is supporting you. The question is, universe will behave that way in every case. They don't change the rule. The problem is, first, we do not know what our goals are. We are not passionate about our goals to be able to reach that state. But every successful person, and I have talked to many, has been able to do that. That's the power of passion. So please make sure your children, you yourself, use passion in this way, where you know precisely what you want. My first innovation, we talked about 6 patents, and actually the answer to the question is, I have 6 patents already, 7 is under the 5. So it's more than 6, but less than 7 right now. But my first patent was this instrument, which I don't want to explain you. But what I want to explain you is that I was 1 year after my PhD. I saw a problem. I wanted to solve that problem, and I became so passionate in this that I could hardly sleep. When I go to sleep, I will actually start coming up with possible solutions. And then I will not go to sleep, because if I go to sleep, I'll forget it next morning. It reached to the state that I found a solution, actually my wife did, that puts a pad and a paper next to you so that you write that goddamn idea, whatever comes to you at mind, and then sleep. Next day you look at the idea and so on. This went on for almost 1 year. But the passion quotient was so high that finally the solution dropped in. And that became my first patent, which I licensed to another company and so on. But the point I'm trying to make is that it's the passion that does amazing things. Amazing solutions come to you. Amazing powers come to you when you are passionate about something. For whatever path you want to achieve, make sure you focus on depth of knowledge and skills. And this also I find problem with the young generation. So message to you guys is, focus on building skills in the area that you want to succeed. If you are a Rahul Dravid, understand cricket. If you are a Prakash Padukone, understand badminton. If you are somebody else like you and me, you better know what skills and knowledge you need to be successful. We have to pay our dues there. The young generation is not willing to work hard on these. And that's why the success plateaus very quickly. So please focus on that. Live your values. This is probably more relevant to India today than ever before from the comments. And live your values, lead and earn trust. We essentially have lost all of that. But I like 2 quotes here. It is a topic in itself to discuss, but General Norman Schwarzkopf says, leadership is a potent combination of strategy and character. If you have to be without one, be without strategy. You cannot compromise on your character. And again, the young generation needs to understand that. Key to earning respect is not just words, deeds, and action. It's about consistent words, consistent deeds, and consistent actions that are based on integrity. We somehow love people and admire people who have this, but we do not try to learn from them and copy it. I read so many young people saying they admire Mr. Narayan Murthy. Great, wonderful to see that, but then what? Why don't you then try to copy some of the things Mr. Murthy does? And so many other successful people, same thing. So have the right values, live your values, take action and persevere. This is another big problem. This is where I came to action provoking rather than thought provoking. We are very good in thinking, but we do not take action. And action is what gets you going. Rabindranath Tagore said you can't cross a sea by merely staring into the water. You need to get into the water. And then persevere. Like Winston Churchill says, success is the ability to go from failure to failure without losing your enthusiasm. Because I do not know any successful person who has succeeded in the first shot. And the classic case is of Colonel who started the Kentucky Fried Chicken. 1,009 times he was denied, and he was successful at 1,010th time. How many of us have capability to continuously go behind our vision, goal, irrespective of the response we get? Here is the test for you. This man failed in business at the age 21, defeated in legislative race at the age 22, failed in business again at 24, had a nervous breakdown at 27, lost congressional race at age 34, lost senatorial race at 45, lost vice presidential race at 47. He is complete failure, isn't it? He is elected president of United States at age 52, and the man is Abraham Lincoln. All these failures did not stop him. He knew precisely what he wanted, and he went after that. Every successful person has these things taken care of. Have a role model or a mentor. I'm a big fan of that. Anthony Robbins says, success leaves clues. Successful people do certain things. If you and I can learn that, we can also be successful. Learn the cues from successful people. Who is the CEO of Pepsi Cola says, I'm a product of great mentors. 100% credit she gives to the mentors. A role model is a source of inspiration. And I ask the young generation to pay a lot of attention to this. Who could be your role model? It gives you concrete shape to your dream. What do you want to be? Why do you want to be like that? If Mr. Murthy is your sort of role model, read about him. Follow him, not physically, but in the press, and try to see what does he do, how does he behave, that you can learn from. And know them, read about them, build values like them, and even copy them. Does that work? Even copying works? The answer is yes. And the proof of the pudding is, how many of you have seen the movie Gandhi by Ben Kingsley? Lots of you have seen Gandhi. Ben Kingsley, when he won Oscar, he said that before playing the role, he actually started living like Gandhiji. He started sleeping on the floor, he started wearing khadi, he became a vegetarian, he started reading books about Gandhi, and he started essentially behaving, acting, living, thinking like Gandhi. And he started changing. His thoughts started changing. He became a different person. And that is why, if you have seen the movie, you know how he has melded into Gandhi's role. It's just mind-boggling. He won Oscar, and Gandhi movie won probably the most Oscar ever a movie won. But even copying, but copying not for the sake of wearing a tie and a suit, copying their values, copying their behavior. I say that all the time. If you want to walk like them, talk like them, make decisions like them, and work hard like them, you can be anyone you want to be. So have a mentor and a role model and make use of that. Give back. Successful companies and successful people have done this not only when they were successful, even from before. Give what you seek. It prevents the hollow feeling after you achieve your success, and the great inspiration it provides to your next generation. If today you ask my parents and say, I have high, what do you respect for? I have high respect for my parents, not only because what they did for me, of course they would do for me whatever, but actually what they did for others. So please, even if you are young, start understanding that giving is very, very important. Does giving work? Let me share a story with you, and you decide if it works or not. This is a story of a very poor farmer Fleming in Scotland. And I'm going to read because it is so well written, I don't want to not read this. This is a story of a poor Scottish farmer whose name was Fleming. One day, while trying to make a living for his family, he heard a cry for help coming from near bog, sort of a pond or a river in his farm. He dropped his tools and ran to the bog. There, mired in his waist in black muck, was a terrified boy, screaming and struggling to free himself. Farmer Fleming saved the boy from what could have been a slow and terrifying death. The next day, a fancy carriage pulled up to the Scotsman's sparse surroundings. An elegantly dressed nobleman stepped out and introduced himself as father of the boy the farmer Fleming had saved yesterday. I want to repay you, said this nobleman. I'll make you a deal. Let me take your son and give him a good education. If he is anything like his father, he will grow to be a man you can be proud of. And that is what he did. He took his son, and farmer Fleming's son graduated from St. Mary's Hospital Medical School in London and went on to become known throughout the world as noted Sir Alexander Fleming, who discovered penicillin. Years after, the nobleman's son was stricken by pneumonia. And what drug saved his life? Penicillin. The story doesn't end here. The nobleman's son also made a great contribution to society, for that nobleman was none other than Lord Randolph Churchill, and the son was Winston Churchill. The power of giving back is phenomenal. When you do a small act of kindness, you do not understand the impact of that. When the farmer saved the boy, he did not know this will change the world, both geographically and in terms of medicine. So the power of giving is phenomenal, and I urge all of you to make sure you do not miss on this one. So here is the summary, and I'll open it for questions. Define a purpose, as simple as that. Only you can define that. Have written goals and strategy. Be passionate about what you want to achieve. Develop knowledge and skills that is needed to make you successful in that job. Live your values. Do not compromise. Any successful person will actually tell you that. Live your values. Take action and persevere, persevere, persevere. Have a role model and a mentor. Give back. And literally, and I mean it, success will find you. It will keep looking for you and find you and come to your doorstep if you do what we need to do here. So, my request to all of you is create and live a life that matters to you, and even better, help a child do exactly this and help all of us create a better world. I thank you for listening to me such an engaged way. I appreciate your attention, and once again, thank you for this opportunity, Buddy and the people. Okay, questions. We have time. There's question here. This question here. If you have multiple mics,
Hi
Yeah.
Vivek, excellent presentation. The question I have is, how do I measure success? Because what I put as a target, by the time I reach that, the next target is always.
How do I decide success? And I think there are multiple answers to that, but the simple, quick answer is it has to be bold. So the difference between having a vision and a goal is that a vision should not have a logical path. A goal should have a logical path. So if you, let's say, you say that if you are talking about financial goal, I want to be a millionaire at the age of 40. Let's say that is the goal. You should, when you're deciding that vision, you should not know how to get to that $1 billion. If you can add to that, then it becomes literally a goal, and then you are really shortchanging you are not extending.
Good evening, everybody. Well, I'll just ask you one simple question. How do you measure success? Well, you use many parameters, but don't you think success is something very relative? So relative that, if you have, many of us must have read that book by Richard Bach, Jonathan Livingston Seagull. Each time you come to a level and you feel you have succeeded, then you are almost floating with people who already been there. So it's a very relative term.
Yes.
So you can't define it and say you can't say hang your boots and say you have succeeded.
You define success by your own measure. That's what one of the bullets said. Don't be decided by your peer group.
No,
your peer group has nothing to do with your capability.
No, I'm not talking about the peer
Right?
group. Again, it's like a mirage. Each time you have succeeded, you feel you're not even reached the threshold.
No harm in extending the goal, though.
So it's a continuous process. So you can't say you have succeeded.
It is a continuous process.
So you can't say you have succeeded in totality.
It depends, and that is why these people who probably had the biggest goal that I'll be CEO of Fortune 500 companies.
Is that 500 reaching is the success, or it can
exactly.
be or being the first among the 10?
Exactly. They said that we didn't, because one, that they achieved, then like you saying, there were other people there already, and second, they paid too heavy price for that. So only person who can decide what it means to you is you. There is no harm in changing your vision and a goal, just like companies do. I want to reach $1 billion. Infosys's goal was I want to reach $1 billion by this year. Then it became 5. Then it became 10. No harm in all that. But understand how not sacrificing your values to try to achieve that, not taking shortcuts to do that, not paying what price, making your core values maintain.
No, that apart. I'm not talking about relative term. I'm talking about how did you define success, and it's like a mirage, and you can't say that I have succeeded. I feel you can never say you have succeeded.
So again, that is for you. I, for example, am very comfortable, and I say that
is contentment.
Right.
That is contentment.
So that is a perspective, but you are right. It is, for me, you can define and you can achieve in a balanced way. You can never achieve 100% of everything, but I think that is the way. And no harm in extending it to the next level and the next level.
Right. Thank you.
There's no harm.
Thank you.
There's a question somewhere here.
Yes. In a corporate context, you mentioned things like profits and values. These are not binary.
I agree.
And every company in its pursuit of profits doesn't necessarily shed all its values, right? In every company in pursuit of its values doesn't shed its desire for profits.
Okay.
Right, yeah. So when you spoke about these companies, where did you define these envelopes? First question. Second question, you mentioned these 4 or 5 students at Yale who had taken the trouble to define their goals. And you said that several years out, all of them had registered a tremendous increase in their net worth.
That's right.
Was that their goal? Had they said in that point of time that their goal was increasing their net worth 30 years out, or what were their goals?
So 2 questions here. The second question I'll answer first. In that Yale study, what happened? Those people had certain goals written for themselves. They had achieved those goals that they wanted to. They had written at that class, and one single number measure of that was in net worth, but that was not the only measure. They had actually achieved everything they wanted to, because they knew precisely where they were going. So their goals were met in that case. Coming to your first questions, the successful companies that I gave you example of, and the book Built to Last talks about it quite at length, by and large, these companies remained loyal to their core values through tough times. and they did not sacrifice that. Let me answer it in a little different way as well. I told you that I have had an opportunity to know and work with some of the biggest leaders in technology world, David Packard, Bill Hewlett, Steve Jobs, Michael Dell, and John Chambers now. They all stand for certain core values for themselves in addition to their company, and they live and die by that. I'll give you example of David Packard's. In the very beginning years of Hewlett Packard, David Packard is driven by people. If you, in one word you need to describe, it is people. In the very beginning of Hewlett Packard, when he was struggling for business, he was approached by government of United States for a large deal to create certain products for defense. He knew this was a major order for him. But what he could not answer is, this is after 1 year or 2 years, what will I do with these people after 2 years? He did not take that order. In his belief, that was more important than chasing this. And you will see similar stories repeatedly again and again, that people have stayed to their core values, and in spite of all of that, they have succeeded beyond dreams, and they have paid tough price. And if you apply it to person, no better example than Gandhiji. And again, could be a long answer, but he stayed to those values no matter what. He suffered pain, whatever, but stayed to that. That is what it takes to become a leader, and then you will ultimately achieve success. At the back there, yeah, lots of hands. Yeah. So can we get the microphones fast? Yeah, please.
Yeah. What part does luck play in the success?
Yeah. So very good question. The question is, if you couldn't hear, what part luck plays in success?
If you ask these great people, if you ask these great people who have been successful, they'll tell you being at the right place at the right time.
That is their humility. Don't go by that.
No, but then
because
you yourself
only they are the people who are at the right place at the right time.
No, but you yourself gave an example about the Harvard school who set their goals.
I got it.
Majority of them didn't succeed.
I got it. Let me answer the question. So where does luck come into picture? I think three points I want to mention there. This is a fantastic question, by the way. One, the old saying still works: the harder you work, the luckier you get. Number two, luck to me is where opportunity meets preparation. When you are prepared for that particular thing, luck arrives. And number three, through passion, once universe is on your side, you will be able to align things which will look luck to you. But actually, this is your passion, your commitment. You have been able to charge and align with universe on your goal. And like I gave an example that Mr. Murthy will come and sit next to you, you will say this is damn lucky. Well, yes and no. But the most important thing I can tell you is that if you ask the successful people, they will all say that I got lucky. That's their humility. Don't go by that. You keep waiting for luck, you will stay where you are, and other people will keep moving. So, very good question. Yes, please.
Yeah. Retrospect, if you see success, there seems to be some logic. When you look back, everything seems perfect. I'll go to the very first point which you spoke about, the purpose. And you also spoke about parents teaching the children.
Yeah.
So what if the parent itself doesn't know what the purpose is? How is he going to teach the science of purpose to the child? I mean, it's very tricky. If you don't have the start,
don't you have a start now? Do you not have a purpose now? That purpose should encompass a larger part of things, your relationship, your material goal, your other goal, recognition, all of that gives you purpose.
Correct. As a concept, we can understand from the slide. But you trying to tell a 10-year-old...
I practice it for 50 years. My children at the age of 15 and 12 started practicing it.
So give me an example. How do you say this is the purpose? What would be the articulation of that?
So
how do you tell a child this is the purpose?
Well, child is, first you need to set yourself before you go to the child, because it's very easy to tell someone else what to do. The problem is they're actually doing it yourself. So don't start with child, start with yourself and say what is meaningful to you. If you work with me, in the next 15 minutes I can help you decide your purpose. It's not complicated at all. We have never sat down and thought. We are chasing a destination and we don't know what we'll do when we get to that destination. And we are willing to pay so much price and all that. So yes, everyone can have a purpose, can have goals, can be passionate about it, can achieve whatever success they want, provided you do all the things that we are talking about. And this is all from studying many, many successful people as well as companies. So this is not academic, this is true in many cases. There's a microphone here, this lady wanted to. Any other, there is a microphone required at the back there.
I've got one.
You have it, okay, you go ahead.
Okay. I would like to apologize for the question that I have now. Are you successful?
You are asking me personally?
Yes.
By my definition, yes. Not for other people. People may say, okay, I have more money than you, I have this, I have that. But I'll tell you, having your values, now that's a personal question and I'm going to answer it you in a little personal way. I'm not bragging about myself. My goal was to be financially independent at 40. I became financially independent at 42. In my value system, I was very clear that parents' relationship is extremely important. When my mother had a medical problem, it took me one day to decide to return from United States, give my career, give my everything and come to Bangalore where I did not know a single person and set up here to help my mother who was with us for 2 years after that. So once your value system is clear, once you know what you want to achieve, once you know what is important to you, you can.
Thank you.
I have a question, sir. As a successful person, what would you have done differently?
Where is the question from?
What would you have done differently in your life if you went back 20 years?
What could I have done differently? That's the question, right?
Yes.
I learned all this through my own studies and lots of mistakes. If I have to do differently, I would have a mentor, yesterday. I would have had to get a mentor, get a strong person who can sort of help you, guide you, mentor you. I would do that right away. I mean, for my children, for example, from the age 12 onwards, they have a mentor. From the age 5, they have their goals written on a piece of paper. So everything that I'm saying, and they are here actually. My son is here. You can talk to him. My wife is here. You can talk to her. So I'm not making it up. You can talk to them and see. So I would do one thing differently I will do is to get a mentor. If you can't get a mentor, a coach as soon as possible, because that can make a big difference to your success and failure. Let's continue to move very quickly here. How much? Okay.
I have a quick question. Basically, I have seen you using Narayan Murthy's name so often, but Sudha Murthy is also the co-founder.
Absolutely.
And I would like to, really like for the ladies who go behind,
Absolutely.
a lot of pressure.
100%. So am I, by no means I'm meaning that Mr. Narayan Murthy is more successful than Sudha Murthy. I believe in these causes very much. For people who know me, one of the person I admire so much is actually Ramesh Ramanathan, who is founder of Janagraha. I am on the board of Janagraha. And so I can tell you that it is not important for me what they do, how much money they have. That is not important for me. What do they stand for? What difference they have been able to make is what is important for me. And absolutely right, by no means Sudha Murthy, I'm not saying she is less successful than Mr. Murthy. There's some fantastic. Similarly, I can't say Swati is less successful than Ramesh Ramanathan. They both are partner and they both are doing fantastic work of adding value to the world, making a difference to the world. So good point. Appreciate that. Mr. Rekhi, can you get the microphone here? This question can derail me, right? Because it's coming from the person of spirits.
Thank you very much. What I want to say is basically not in the form of a question. It's in the form of appreciation. While Stanley was trying to introduce you, I thought, where the hell am I going to be sitting through this presentation? But my appreciation and my relationship with the presentation grew as you progressed with your slides. And in my career, I have done many things which have been captured there either through experience or through research. And my urge will be, I'll be urging you, whoever wishes to request you for a copy of this, you should be kind enough to make one available either through Bunty's office. I fortunately have your card and I'm going to ask your EA to give it to me. But this has been a fantastic presentation for those who want to relate with what you have said, and those who want to scoff at it can do it at their own peril. This is my total assessment.
And for those people who do not know who he is, I'm going to, can you please introduce? I know you are head of, but I don't know exact title. Bunty, Bunty's here? Bunty. No, this is important for the young generation to know who you are. Can I give the microphone once again to him, please?
But I will give 3 examples from...
Just introduce yourself, so it adds the weight for the young generation.
Okay.
Yeah, it's working.
No, it's not.
Oh. Yeah, it's working now.
Yeah. I am Vijay Rekhi, currently the chairman of United Spirits Executive Committee. I have worked 15 years at a stretch as managing director of what is now known as United Spirits. When I took over, it had a certain presence in terms of volumes in India. And when I handed over the charge to the successor team, it was a global #1 company by volume. That's enough as far as my background is concerned. I've been to management schools including Harvard and all that. But leave that aside. When I was coming out of IIM, one of my professors, Pruthi, whom I was assisting in writing a book, he said, Vijay, why don't you write a goal for yourself? What do you want to be? Now at the age of 21, 22, I could think, and he pushed me for 10-year outlook. And I said I wanted to be a marketing manager at the age of 10, after 10 years of working experience. And believe me you, on the 10th year, or around about that, I was the marketing manager of the company I was working for. A very good exemplification of if you don't write a goal, you don't yearn or you don't walk towards that. Second, in terms of passion, like you discovered your patents or patent, if you don't have a scribble pad next to your pillow, okay, the ideas walk away. It's a very good, very productive habit, and I can endorse that not 1%, not 100%, but millions of hundreds of percentages on that. It's a very, very good habit. And thirdly is the intensity of passion. You can have passion, which is maybe 10% of what 100% is, or you can have 100% or 110% of that. And that really drives you to achieve what you have set out to. And I think one lesson which I've taken from what you have said is, if you do not mentor your next generation to your potential, I think you're not doing justice to your successors.
Thank you so much. Actually, since you have added, I'll just take 1 more minute. Kiran Majumdar Shah is here. Kiran, can I hear 1 minute from you on your thoughts? The idea is that young generation should know what is truth here. Can we give the microphone to her? Just for 1 minute. I apologize, we are taking more time, but it's very important because one of the most successful women entrepreneurs right here. Please share in 1 minute what you...
Well, I completely agree with many of the things you said. I think one of my, absolutely driving sort of spirits and guiding spirits is really about having a sense of purpose. I think you have to have a very deep sense of purpose. I certainly have believed that failure is a part of success. I certainly believe that, I completely relate to that statement or the quotation that you made that, success is going from failure to failure without giving up. I think that's very, very important.
Right. That's right.
And there are no shortcuts to success. It is about hard work. I think I completely endorse your views that you have to have and you have to be guided by a deep sense of values. Because I think values are what make you.
Absolutely.
I think it's about, you know, not sacrificing your character, because character is more important than just
Wonderful,
success.
wonderful.
I think you have to retain that character, and, you know, certainly every one of us is doing it because we want to make it a better world. At least I'm very deeply driven by wanting to make a difference to, you know, patients in this country, patients in the world. I want to make India a very different country. And, you know, I do everything because I'm driven by a spirit of making a difference. So I think, you know, everyone is driven by a sense of purpose. Everyone is driven by a set of values. And I think at the end of it, I think we must live to make a difference.
Wonderful, wonderful. So team, you have heard two very, very successful people right here, and they endorse. So the purpose is not whether they endorse my thoughts or not. The important thing is for you to know that this works. And if you work on it, hopefully we can make India a better place and make a big difference to the young generation. Thank you again. I appreciate it.